welcome, I'm Zombie Kitty, and well, okay. So this was supposed to be a gameplay video of Bendy Secrets of the Machine, which is a free Bendy game that Joey Goose Studios have released. They released it a few days ago, but I was away when it got released, so I'm a bit late to this. But yeah, this was a game essentially full of teasers. I did an hour's recording. I played the whole thing. I did go through Dorco's video to make sure I didn't miss anything. I was like, okay, we got a lot of good scares in here, it was really fun, blah blah blah. My game, the recording program that I use for my games, was recording the Steam homepage the entire time and not the game. What this is going to be instead is this is going to be a vlog of me talking about my experience with the game. I've taken screenshots from my second playthrough, just to make sure I haven't missed anything. I was going to try and refilm it and like pretend I hadn't seen anything, but I was like, you know what, I don't want to be one of those people, one of those YouTubers who like fake their reactions or whatever. I would have rather if they've just done a completely blind gameplay video. I don't know why my light's gone weird, but yeah, but I wanted to do like go into this completely as blind as possible, and yeah, I was like, well, if it didn't record correctly, then I can still talk about my experiences with this. So what this was Secrets of the Machine is a completely free game. It's on Steam, so I will leave the Steam link page in the description below, so you guys can go off and play it and get scared and experience it for yourself. But yeah, it was essentially you go into this building and you go into this lobby with 3 rooms, and the 3 rooms are essentially teasers to Joey Goose Studios' upcoming games and spin-off games in the Bendy series. That's what it was to do with essentially. It was a really, really cool way of sort of giving fans a sneak peek on reveals and stuff like that, of like, oh, this is what's coming up, this is what's in the franchise's future. It was a really, really cool way to do it. And I also like it was still a horror game. Like they didn't like, just because it's a game full of teasers and like you had to like solve a couple of puzzles to get to those teasers, it doesn't mean that there wasn't any horror. The first puzzle that I did was in the main lobby there's a bacon soup dispenser, and essentially what you've got to do is just throw the cans of soup at anything that you can find in that room to unlock the puzzles and to unlock different rooms. And the first thing that I did was I threw a bacon soup can at a Bendy cutout, turned around, and this like Bendy Dummy, I've taken screenshots, so I'll put them up as I'm talking when it's relevant. And this Bendy like crash test dummy thing was like this close to me, and it's so annoying because I had the recording. Oh god, I think I deleted the recording, god damn it. Oh, I shouldn't have done that, because it took me a while for my brain to process what I was looking at, because it was so close to me, and the lighting on the Bendy games are always a bit weird because of the art style. So I just thought the lighting was just trying to adjust. I didn't realise that this thing was just right in my face. So it always takes my brain sometimes a while to process stuff, but that was like the biggest jump scare I got throughout that thing. And this weird dummy, it's a bit like the endos in Security Breach, where if you look away, it starts moving, so suddenly you'll turn around and again it will be right in your face. I ended up making friends with it. I did joke at one point when I was recording, like, this is just going to be me and this Bendy Dummy just messing around and scaring each other. But that was the first thing that happened. And then the second thing was, there was a room that had a sign up above that said escape your cage. So that was a reference to the upcoming Bendy game, The Cage, which is like, it looks really, really good, but looks like it's going to go into that more like darker tone of the horror genre, which I'm all for. I'm really excited for it. And I think that's following Henry from the first game, which I feel like the franchise kind of needs, now that Dark Revival kind of brought him back. I feel like that's the right direction to go in. But it was a reference to that, and it leads you into this room with this big TV screen. On the right, when you went in, there was a box with a question mark on it. I kept trying to interact with it, but it just shook and that was it. So I don't really know what that was there for, unless that was just a reference to something that I don't know. But you went into this room and it was a massive TV screen with these 4 things that if you threw a can of soup at them, they sort of rolled round. And you had Bendy, Boris, Alice, and I can't remember what its name was, the final boss in Dark Revival. There was also a picture of that. And you had to roll it around in different patterns to get the TV screen to show different images. So the first image that showed up was the Bendy 3 logo, which I don't know if that's referring to Bendy the Cage or whether that's going to be an actual other game. If it is just the cage, then it's something I already knew about, but it's still pretty cool to have that kind of confirmed. If it isn't and it is something else, then that's pretty exciting. The next thing that it showed me was one for the Silent City, and this was interesting. So it was a picture of a robot bendy hand holding a gun, and I think the gun said Alice on it or something, and at the bottom it said intended for mature audiences. Now whether this is yet another spin-off or whether this is a fake game within one of the games, I'm not really sure, but it definitely looked like a different departure than what we're used to. It looked more like a futuristic sci-fi kind of thing, but I don't know if that's to do with, I don't know if that's a fake game within the game or whether that's going to be another spin-off game. A bit like Bendy on the Run and the Boris top-down game that I played a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's going to be that kind of thing. The next one we got was a picture of a cat character called Fluffy, which looked really, really cute. Again, don't know if that's going to be an upcoming character for Bendy the Cage, but it was adorable nonetheless. The last image we got, I could not figure out what this was. I had no idea what I was looking at, to be honest. It looks like, I want to say it's an ink demon kind of thing, but I wasn't entirely sure. Or it was just concept art, I don't really know. Yeah, this one I wasn't really sure what it was. It looked cool though, I'll give it that. The next room I found basically it had 2 windows either side of it and I had to smash both of those windows. And this is the biggest lore dump that we probably got for the next game. So what it did is it led you into this sitting room type area, where you had a drawing, a height chart drawing on the wall, and then there was a family portrait in front of you. And essentially, I originally thought when I saw the portrait, I thought, okay, that's Joey Drew, that's his wife, and the kid might be Audrey. But then I was like, that doesn't make sense because different hairstyle, and it was looking more stereotypically boy. So I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense. I don't really know who that is. And what you had to do was there's a pencil stuck to the drawing that you had to pick up. And the first thing we had to do was fill in the height chart on the wall. And essentially what this was it was going through this character's life. So the first thing that happened was the height drawing happened, and then you had a whole bunch of papers on the floor, and you had to fill out the papers with different drawings, which was of a chicken and a little girl, and fairly innocent childhood things. The next thing that happened was the door, when you went into that room, the door closed and then the door reopens and you're suddenly in school. Essentially what happens is, it goes through this character's life called Riley. This person's called Riley. And the next thing, I know I've just skipped something, but I'll get back to that. And the next thing that happens is it goes through to 15 to 17 years old. This is when things go a bit downhill. The portrait suddenly has a blood splatter over the dad and the mum, which then tells you that something happened. you then have to draw in another picture, and this time it's of a car that looks like a monster. Yeah, when you're in the school psychiatrist is saying, you know, Riley's, you know, we've got to have more sessions with Riley. Riley's not doing well. Clearly there's something traumatic here, and this is affecting them. And then they get accepted into Joey Drew Studios. Then you're taken down a hallway where every drawing that you find in this hallway, you are drawing that same car monster across the hallway, and it leads to Joey Drew's office at the end of that hallway, where you were first invited to go there as an animator, and then you get a letter saying, oh, you've been terminated because other workers have complained that they don't like your really disturbing work. You're drawing all of these horrible creatures and monsters, and we don't like that. Riley essentially has a lot of trauma, I think it's safe to say, because the next thing that happens is you go essentially back to the beginning of the game, and what I really like is occasionally you do cycles. So it has different things on, like the entrance archway leading to the building. I'll put them up as screenshots, and then one of them was real life, and one of them was forget. So I'll put them up as I'm talking. But yeah, you go back into this building that from the beginning of the game. You turn a corner, and this car monster is suddenly there and chases after you, and you can't escape that. So it does crash into you, and you're sent back once again to the beginning of the game. And essentially, yeah, what's happened is Riley was an animator at Joey Drew Studios. When he was a kid or a teenager, his parents died in a car crash, which has traumatized him to the point where that's all he can think about, that's all he's drawing is these creatures and this car monster, which leads to his termination. What was interesting, and I don't think I did take a screenshot of this, I can't remember, is that once you're terminated, you turn round and the Genco door is at the other end of the hallway, and you go through. So what I'm thinking is that Riley, this is just my theory, Riley ended up working for Genco after being fired by Joey Drew because of the monsters and the creatures, and Riley felt like that was the only way to turn to, because obviously Genco are the one doing all the experiments and stuff and creating these monsters, and I kind of have a weird feeling that Riley might have had a hand in that. But that was like the biggest sort of lore dump that we got. That was the most sort of important part, I think, out of this. Next to obviously, I mean, all of this was important, but I feel like that was like, okay, is this the next character we're going to be playing as? Because if it is as well, like Bendy the Cage, like I said earlier, is going to be based around Henry. So if we're going to be playing Riley, who was an animator and an artist at Joey Drew Studios, okay, cool, did they know each other? You know what I mean? Like, it does make a lot of sense that we might be playing them in the next game. And then the last room that I unlocked was the old-timey theatre with a new character. So he looks like sort of a conductor, you know, like Thomas the Tank Engine kind of thing, or Postman Pat. He looked like one of those kind of characters. It was really cute. I quite liked it. But I hope I'm guessing he's a new character in like upcoming games and stuff. But this led you into like an old cinema type room where if you throwing tin cans was kind of the key to unlocking stuff in this game, which is quite funny. You couldn't like jump or run or anything, but if you threw the can at the screen, like all these images came up to do with like subjects and rejects and Genco, and the flashes of the ink demon came up as well as like other creepy imagery. I did take up a couple of screenshots just to show you. I tried to get the one of the ink machine's face, or not ink machine, ink demon's face, but I wasn't quick enough because they flash by really, really quickly. It kind of reminded me of, and I even said this when I was recording this, the Alton Towers, the Smiler, and the imagery on the Smiler ride and stuff like that. It reminded me a lot of that. And there were a couple sort of just little Easter eggs and silly things that happened. So at one point, I think I went to change the battery on my camera, so I left the game paused. And essentially, if you leave the game paused for too long, you get an Ink Demon jump scare. A bit like, if you remember PT, which was that Silent Hill teaser, that had the same thing where it's like, if you paused it for too long, then you would get jump scared. And it was the same thing here. Only thing is I didn't get jump scared because I didn't have my earphones in. So I looked up just in time to see the creature's face, and I was like, wait, what happened? I thought I had this game paused. That was a pretty cool detail to put in. But yeah, I wasn't wearing my earphones at the time, so haha, you didn't get me. I just ended up looking really confused about what was going on. The other thing as well is that there's a Little Devil Darling poster in the cinema room. And if you took down the poster, then there was a hole in the wall. If you peeked through the hole, you got a little sneak peek of the Ink Demon having a rave with the other characters. Now this didn't work for me. I couldn't get the poster to be removed at all, so it didn't work for me anyway. But I did see on Dorco's video that this worked, which was really funny. I do kind of like that. Even though these games are really scary and creepy, I like that they sort of had fun with it. Because this wasn't like... I guess it is going to be canon because of the lore on Riley, but because this is just filled with teasers and sort of silly things and Easter eggs and stuff, they can kind of have fun with it and do stuff like that in this game. But that was quite funny to see. But yeah, it didn't work for me when I tried it, so... there isn't footage of that anyway. I mean, there's not footage of this game anyway from my playthrough because I messed up, but that was something I wasn't able to get. The last thing I want to mention, and to be honest, I can't remember if I've already mentioned this or not, but there was another poster in the cinema room which was of Boris, and I can't remember if this was a reference to Dark Revival, and even when I was recording it, I couldn't remember if this was a reference to Dark Revival, or that top-down Boris shooter that we... not shooter, but like top-down Boris game that we played a couple of years ago. I can't remember what that was called either. What was that called? Yeah, even when I was recording the game, I couldn't quite remember if that was a reference to Dark Revival or this other game. But I thought it was just, something worth to note. Something to note, really. Sorry, it's very late here now because I've already been recording for an hour or so on the game. It is a shame that it didn't work because yeah, I kept getting jump scared by this Bendy Dummy and like actually jump scared, like literally doing that, which would have been really funny to see. But yeah, I think I've, in a fit of rage, I think I've stupidly deleted the footage as well, like this footage here. So, whoopsie. So, yeah, overall, it was a really fun game. It fucking sucked that it didn't record. I was so annoyed. It's like, oh, I've just wasted an hour, but also, because again, like I said at the start, like, I could just go back and record it, but I don't want to fake my reactions. Like, that's not really what I do. So, yeah, and I'd already gone into that game blind as well, so it wouldn't have really worked if I already knew what was coming and what was already going to happen. So it just wouldn't have worked anyway, but I still wanted to talk about this, so I thought, well, you know, it might be worth doing just a vlog. I will say, and I did mention this at the end of my original recording, that I do wish they had put the film teaser in, even if it was just the image from their actual announcement tweet. So yeah, I haven't done a video on any of this. So yes, there's going to be a Bendy film, and obviously Bendy the Cage is coming out either this year or next year. I'm not entirely sure, actually. But yeah, I haven't done videos on those because at the time that the announcement tweet was released, it was just that one picture, it wasn't anything else. So I was like, okay, I don't really feel like I need to do a video on just one image. But I feel like I can talk about it here. So in terms of the film, I'm really excited for it. I feel like this is one of those game adaptations where it's like, if it's animated or live action or both, like with Roger Rabbit, I feel like either direction would actually work for this because of what it's about and the setting and everything. I feel like that would work no matter what direction they go in. For me, preferably, I would rather they do like a Roger Rabbit, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you have the humans being live action, but you have the characters being like 2D animation, stuff like Boris, Angel, Bendy being 2D animation. However, I really want the Ink Demon to be 3D animated, so have Boris be 2D drawn, but then suddenly have, when the Ink Demon appears, have him be 3D and like CGI animated. That could be really, really cool, I think. In terms of Bendy the Cage, I am really looking forward to that as well. I hesitate because I haven't really seen too much on it. Like, I did see there was again an announcement teaser, and from what I've seen from it at the moment, it looks terrifying. Like, I really like the Bendy franchise has always had its scares and stuff, but yeah, this looks like it's going to go into much more of a darker tone, which I'm really excited for. And even in Secrets of the Machine, like, the scares were really good because they weren't jump scares, like there was no like stinger or sound when they happened. So a big example was obviously the Bendy Dummy. Like, when that first appeared, it was literally right up against my face. There was no sound, doesn't make any noise, and even the way that it acted was like the endos from Security Breach, where if you looked away it started moving, so suddenly you turn around and it would just be right there. And again, there was no noise or anything like that. And I think those type of scares are much more, even the jump scares, when they're done right, are good. When done right. I prefer that kind of scare where it's just quiet and it's just suddenly there. I think that's much more terrifying. Because yeah, the first time that dummy appeared, I got the biggest jumps. I was so terrified, and it took me a while to like calm down. So yeah, I feel like those scares are more effective, and the Bendy franchise has obviously proved that it can be scary and creepy. So I'm glad that they're continuing in that direction. And even with Secrets of the Machine, even though it was just a game filled with teasers and like Easter eggs, it didn't mean that like it wasn't going to be scary. It was still going to be in that horror genre, which I really appreciated. But I'm getting a bit of a dry throat. I've been rambling on for quite a while. But yeah, apologies that this wasn't going to be the video I had originally planned. I'm sorry that this isn't a gameplay video, but I hope this is still okay and enjoyable. I'm really, really excited for what's in store for the Bendy franchise, whether that's the film, the games, and anything else that's coming up. I'm really, really excited for it. But yeah, this was my vlog on Bendy Secrets of the Machine. Once again, I apologise, this is not a gameplay video. But what I will do, because in the original video I did reference Dorco's video quite a lot, because him and 8-Bit Ryan have already played Secrets of the Machine. I think I've already said this at the start, but this came out a few days ago, but I was away, so I missed the release day. So yeah, I am a bit late on this, but I'll put Dorco's video in the video description below, because I did reference him quite a lot, as well as the Steam page for the game in the description too. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye!